Hey everyone, I'm Sarah, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently because we're in the kitchen again. So unfortunately today I don't have Carmelina helping me, so I'm kind of running things on my own here. Normally it's Carmelina in the kitchen and she's showing you different recipes and drinks. But today I'm going to be doing something, it's not really cooking, I'm just going through what you need for holiday baking 2020 style. We all know that this year it's a little harder to navigate grocery stores and to get stuff that we need. So be sure to be going early enough, go on days that aren't generally busy in your area. Scope out different vendors and stores because you might not be able to pick it up at your local Walmart this year. Things are going off the shelves faster and it's just harder to get, like logistically speaking, I work at a grocery store, I know that it is harder to fill shelves these days. So be sure to be taking into consideration that if you go to your local super center, there might not be what you need. So write a list, prepare, get out there earlier these days. I'm going to be going through everything in our pantry that we have for holiday baking. In this household, all of us typically do a great deal of baking, especially closer to Christmas time. You saw a video of our pie contest that we have at Thanksgiving. Near Christmas, we have a cookie exchange. So we have to be ready at all times to be baking in the kitchen. Typically, the first weekend of December, we have our cookie exchange and my aunt hosts it. And each member is supposed to bring their own type of cookie and enough so that other people can take it home with them. And then at the end of the night, though it's not as official as the pie contest where we have a rating card, somebody picks their favorite and another person's offended. But that's just our traditions. So let's go through what you need. So first of all, everybody should have flour in their household. Now we have this huge canister of flour, but we also have like about 3 other sacks in the basement. And of course this is just plain all-purpose flour. You can also get pastry flour or cake flour. Now many people don't know this, but you can actually make your own cake flour at home. And all you need is a cup of all-purpose flour, and then you remove 2 tablespoons of it and add in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. Whisk so that it blends to a perfect consistency. And pastry flour is typically just a finer flour so that it doesn't, there's less chance of clumps. Of course, sifting everything when baking is one of the best practices. It creates air and you're making sure that everything is smooth in your batter or dough. So yes, we just have all-purpose flour. If a recipe calls for cake flour, we normally make it ourselves. And of course, you can pick up little sacks of it at any grocery store. Moving on to sugars. To sweeten our goods, we have granulated sugar. Of course, we have several other sacks in the basement as well. We have powdered sugar, and powdered sugar is great for crinkled cookies. I normally make crinkled cookies every year because they're definitely one of the easier options. And then we have light brown sugar, and you can also get dark brown sugar. And of course, these different sugars are just going to give you a different result of all the same things. So, of course, it'll still taste great. The flavor might be a little different from what it would have originally called for with the dark brown sugar, and it might come out a little different too. So maybe the cookie might come out flatter rather than short and puffy, but it still tastes delicious. Then we have baking soda, baking powder. We have 2 different types of yeast. We have quick rise and traditional. Now yeast has been especially hard to come by this year, so really be careful and plan ahead for different recipes that you're going to be using. So once you have your flours and sugars set, next main ingredient to any baking recipe are going to be shortenings. Now shortenings is any solid fat at room temperature that is used to combined ingredients in a recipe. We typically carry at our house unsalted butter. Now we prefer the blocks with the measurements along the side. It makes it easier to know how much you're using. Of course, we also have a food scale, and I definitely recommend ordering one off of Amazon or picking one up at a Walmart. They make the baking process so much easier and accurate because baking is a very precise activity. If you're off by a little bit, you might come out with a dry cookie or it it won't hold together properly. So definitely make sure you have your measurements in place. And then another type of shortening is lard. And lard is great for pie crust typically. And then of course another type of shortening is margarine. So different types will yield different results. And then of course you might always want to have a bottle of vegetable oil. Those come in handy with any cakes. Next, once you have your shortenings figured out, you're going to want to make sure you have lots of salt. Like this one is running low, so we're definitely going to need to pick up more. Salt accentuates the flavor of your baked goods. So it brings out the flavor in butter, sugars, and even flour. And especially, for example, chocolate, which is why you see, for example, like sea salt dark chocolate. Salt heightens any flavors and it brings that out, which is why most times recipes only call for about a pinch or so. And of course in bread baking, salt helps gluten hold more water and carbon dioxide, which gives that, like in pie crust for example, flaky, crumbly consistency. Next we have just a few odd items like evaporated milk, corn syrup, which is great when you're making butter tarts. Of course fancy molasses, which is a must when making gingerbread. And then here on this little rack we have cocoa powder, and we exclusively use Hershey's. Vanilla beans, which is a must when making creme caramel. We have ground nutmeg, ground cinnamon, ground ginger, and ground cloves. And of course you carry any spices that you think are a necessary part of your recipes. And then we have vanilla extract and almond extract. And those spices are, for us, a must. Of course, there are a couple that we are short of, especially when making cookies. You're gonna want chocolate chips. And we have about 6 different varieties in this household. And of each variety, we have about like 3 bags. We have from sweetest, white chocolate, milk chocolate, semi-sweet, and dark chocolate. And then we have novelty chocolate chips, which include sea salt caramel and Reese's peanut butter chips. Now, the last necessity for baking around the holiday times are nuts and dried fruits. We typically have walnuts, both whole pieces, almond slices, slivers, pecans, whole and pieces, filberts, which are hazelnuts, macadamia nuts, pine nuts, and then dried fruits such as cranberries, apricots, dates are a particular favorite in this household. All of those you can pick up at any local grocery store. So I know at Longo's we carry pre-portioned containers of different bulk goods. So that's always an amazing stop to pick up any of these types of nuts and dried fruits. I know at other grocery stores where they used to have the bins and you could pick out exactly how much weight. Because of COVID, a lot of places have stopped that now, and you know that you have to buy in bulk portions, bulk quantities. So definitely consider that too before you go out shopping. You're not able to buy exactly how much you need for whatever the recipe calls for. And be sure you're picking out your recipes in advance. You're going to the grocery stores in advance with the proper list, and knowing and having in mind that you might not find everything you need at that one place. It's always good to take a deep breath before you go into these grocery stores nowadays, because I know it can be a little frustrating when you're at your 3rd location that day and you still can't find what you need. It's important that we practice patience and always treat the workers with a little bit of kindness. They are doing their best, and no, they are not keeping the stuff for themselves. Of course, we're gonna leave a list down below with everything that we have in our pantry. I hope you found this video helpful and that hopefully it reminded you what you need to go get, or at least reminded you that you should be planning in advance for these things. Share this video to other bakers who might find this helpful as well, and hit that like button if you enjoy this kind of content. We will be having more baking videos where we're actually showing you recipes of ours. This was just a kind of a pre-holiday video just to remind you, to get you all set so when you're baking alongside us. So hit that like button if you enjoyed the content, and please subscribe to be a part of the S&C family. Other than that, hope to see you soon.